You will have your individual exit slip assigned to you with your own individual problems. What? Put one problem underneath this and two problems on the other page. Yeah. Okay, so problem number 1. You're going to have 5x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0. When you use quadratic formula, the first thing that you have to do after you notice it's already in standard form, you have your ax squared, your bx, and your c, is you are going to label what all three of those values are. So a is your term with your x squared, so it's 5. B is your term with just your x. And c is your term by itself. Okay, all I did was rewrite it because you can't see my formula. You don't have to rewrite the formula. It's on your page in front of you. Okay? So, the first thing I do is I have this minus sign or this negative sign, and then I'm going to substitute my value for b in. Everything you substitute, you put parentheses around. Okay, so I substituted that. Then I'm going to have a plus and a minus sign, a square root. In parentheses, I'm substituting b in again, so that's negative 2. Close my parentheses, squared. Minus 4. A is 5. C is negative 1. Draw my fraction. And 2 times A, which is 5. No one should sit in here and say, I don't know how to do that. All you did was put numbers in for letters. Right? Now, the second part of that is going to be in your calculator. And you need to simplify what's inside the radical, or the square root in your case. So that's the only part that I type into my calculator. Okay? And again, you can only get the question right if you're smart enough to type it into your calculator correctly. Okay? So slow down and type it in correctly. So I'm going to start with parentheses, and I'm going to put negative 2 in parentheses. Then I'm going to square it. Then I'm going to put minus 4, and in parentheses I'm going to put 5, close my parenthesis, open another parenthesis, and put negative 1, and close it. All I did was type in what was underneath my square root and press equals, and I get 24. So now I have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 24 over 2 times 5. Did I lose anybody? Everybody could type something into your calculator correctly? Okay, now, simplify what you can simplify. What's the two negatives here simplify? Positive. So this is going to be 2 plus or minus the square root of 24. And you should also be able to do 2 times 5. 10. Either use your calculator or in your head, however. Now, what does this mean if I have a plus or minus? There's no plus or minus button on my calculator. So what does that mean I'm going to do? What? I'm going to have 2 answers. Everything that's squared has 2 answers. Okay? So I'm going to break this down into 2 parts. So I'm going to have 2 plus the square root of 24 divided by 10 is going to be one answer. And 2 minus the square root of 24 divided by 10 is going to be my other answer. There's my 2 answers. So in your calculator, I'm going to do exactly what this says in 2 steps. If you put it in one step, I guarantee you're going to get the wrong answer. So do it in 2 steps. So this is 2 plus the square root of 24 equals 6.8989, blah, 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 and then I'm going to divide by 10. Point, you go out to the hundredth spot. So where's the hundredths? What number, what digits in your hundredth spot?
9.
No.
No,
8.
8.
So you look at the 9, and what does it tell you to do to the 8? 0.69. Now you're going to do the other one, so I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to do 2 minus the square root of 24, press equals, and then divide by 10. And I get negative 0.29. Now, what I just found were my x-intercepts. How do I write x-intercepts? A number and then 0. So these are ordered pairs. Right there. And then you're finished. So the only part that you have to think about is what your A, B, and C are. And then from there, can you type it into your calculator? Okay, the next two problems that you need to put in your notebook. Here's question number 2. Oh, can't see it. It doesn't matter if I have a y there or a 0. It also doesn't matter if the y equals would have been on the left side. Right? As long as everything is in standard form. And this is because you have ax squared plus bx plus c. So what is your a value? Negative 5. B, negative 24. And c, 5. Now, I will write down the quadratic formula again. You guys already have it on your notes. You do not have to write it down again. You also do not have to have it memorized. Okay, so B is negative 24. So in parentheses, I'm going to put negative 24. Do not forget the negative already on the outside. Plus or minus my square root symbol. In parentheses, I'm going to put negative 24 squared minus 4. A is negative 5. C is positive 5. All over 2 times A, which is negative 5. If you put a plus there? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, did everybody substitute numbers in? Okay, what's the first part that we're going to do? Do what's under your square root. So right here, we need to simplify that to a number. Cornelius, what'd you say it was?
125.
No. Has to be way more than that, because negative 24 squared. 676? I heard multiple people say that. Type it in. Make sure you can get 676. If you can't, I'll look back and see where you messed up. Nope. You got to put parentheses. Parenthesis, negative 24. Close the parenthesis, squared, minus 4, parenthesis, negative 5, parenthesis, 5. Yep, 676. Okay, simplify. What's the two negatives simplify to? Positive. So this is 24 plus 676 over what's 2 times negative 5? negative 10, and I have 24 minus the square root of 676 over negative 10. I personally choose to write mine without the plus and minus sign. I write it as two separate ones, because then it tells me, okay, I have two answers I have to get. If you want to leave it as one and keep just the plus and minus sign, that's fine, okay? Now you got to type this into your calculator. So what's 24 plus the square root of 676?
Is it 5? The answer is 5.
The answer is not 5.
Isn't it? Oh, you're doing the negative first.
No, I didn't do the negative first. I did 24 plus the square root of 676. That's 50. And then I'm going to divide by negative 10. That's negative 5.
My bad, I forgot to do the negative. In my life.
Okay? And then 24 minus the square root of 676, which gives you negative 2, divided by negative 10, is 0.2. Two answers. Okay? Okay, the last one that we're going to do together. So question number 3. Okay, what do you have to do first here? Put it in standard form. So you have to move the 4 to the other side. How do you move the 4 to the other side? Subtract 4 to the other side. And so I'm going to have A is 3, B is negative 4, and C is also negative 4. So we're going to have that minus sign and then B value, which is negative 4, plus or minus the square root of B, which is negative 4, squared, minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is negative 4, all over 2 times A, which is 3. Type it in and see what you get for underneath the square root. Just write it on your paper and then I'll call on somebody. Or I'll just show you up here. Cornelius, did you get something under the square root? Yep, most people saw QF in geometry last year. And not asking you to do any of it in your head, so it's just a calculator after you figure out what A, B, and C is. Anything that would have a quadratic in it. So your car problem, okay, right? Brakes, acceleration versus stopping distance is a quadratic. That's because your computer that you hook your car up to does it for you. But what if it doesn't? What if that computer breaks down? What if all the networking, because the networking guys can't fix it, and we had it hacked? No, you just say I'll put brake pads on when you don't really need brake pads, and you just charge a customer for it. Yeah, that's what happens. Okay, so underneath the square root, somebody besides Cornelius, you didn't, what, 64. Do we agree with that? That's what I got, 64. Okay, so now, what's the two negatives here make? Positive. It won't always be two negatives, it just, the problems that I gave you had that. So plus or minus, well here, I'm going to write it different. 4 plus the square root of 64, what's 2 times 3? 6. And 4 minus the square root of 64 divided by 6. So what is that? What is 4 plus the square root of 64 divided by 6? 2. And then I have 4 minus the square root of 64 divided by 6. Negative 0.67, or you could write that as negative 2/3. Now you need to add one last piece of information to the bottom of your notes. Ready? If there is a negative number underneath your square root, can you take the negative of a number? The square root of a negative number? No. So if you get a negative number underneath the square root, the answer is no solution. And that's also a circle with a line through it. Math Excel usually writes out no solution, but just FYI, that's where we would be.